Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be showing how I'm using this iterative flow development to create a console application, a web environment, which I call a console application for this service, which allows to transform HTML to all sorts of different things. And there's another video that shows that in action. So I've now added a console. You can see I'm on version 0.1.04. So here's what it looks like at the moment. There's already a bit of a playground, so you can come in here, you can select that text and you can kind of see it there. And then so the logic here is that, you can basically see how, if I make a modification here, I can then see the text here, and that's the dictionary. You can also see the tree node, so that's fundamentally the extraction of that into hash-based elements. And then what you can see is, for example, that hash there, 81F, if I see the hashes, you'll see that it will be there, right? So it's there, right? So that's the equivalent transformation. And there's also a nice tree view that you have here about the information. So one of the things I added on this version, which I added these little buttons here on the left, would basically just simulate that, makes it easy to experiment and debug, and it's really cool, right? And it's a good example of the power of creating mini tools while developing this. Just quickly to show, this is version 0.4. Let me actually show you 1.4. Let me show you version. So this was the first version that we created. Actually, I think he only had the index. Yeah, that's the version 1.0, and then version 1.1 introduced, a bit the playground, a bit of that sort of initial thing, and this version already had a bit of that, although I had a bug here because you couldn't transform this. And what you'll see also interesting here is the network files that I loaded, which is quite relevant in a second. So what I want to show now is if I go to version 0.2, you start to see, although it looks the same, actually I had a little debug breakpoint there, it starts to load. You can see stuff from the previous one. So this was a good example of a pure refactoring exercise where I just, from the version 1 to 1.2, I actually cleaned up the code a lot, and then version 0.3 introduced these buttons here on the left. This version still had that bug, as you can see. Again, it's very easy to replicate the bug, right? But again, what's cool about this version, you can start to see that we already start to use version from 1.1, then 1.2, 1.3, etc. So this is a good example of the capabilities. And actually doing this version, I found a really cool, powerful technique of using JavaScript imports, which I'll show you in a second, which was really powerful. And then version 0.1.4 is the one that I just seen, which has the fixes. And again, these versions are still reusing elements. And that's the kind of idea. The idea is that what you have between each version is fundamentally what changed between that. So you could see even on version 0.1.4, I'm still using version from 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. And this is what it looks like in the code, right? You got version 1.0 there, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. And again, there's a nice separation of do this. So for example, here's a good example, right? So although I have all these elements on these guys here, I'm only transforming this one. In fact, I transformed this from a sort of, this class thing to actually being a nice, in class that extends HTML element is quite nice, right? The thing that this showed was pretty cool was I saw the next version. So the next version introduced this really cool feature called basically imports, and that really solved a lot of the code. It was really cool because they allow me to keep reusing as much as I can from the previous one, like import maps. But you can see, like, it's really nice that each version only has the changes that you made. And by the way, the readmes contain really good detailed information about that. And then here, again, that's the new version. I added the syntax highlighting service. I added, basically, again, a new service to handle that, and then modify the output view to fix that bug. And then again, it's nice and clean. And then again, the README explains, that process and the bugs and the stuff, how it happens. So it's pretty cool, right? So this is a ridiculously powerful workflow, and a lot to come, but it's already getting there.